Employers of Reddit, what is the most messed up thing you have caught your staff doing? Back in college, I managed the night shift at a popular Mediterranean/American bar food kinda place. I had these two fuckfaces working for me at the time that were slinging grams of weed with the burgers. One of the dumbasses actually put the drug money in the register with the rest of the restaurant's business for the day and then ditched clean up and skipped. I was pretty floored when I counted up the register and we were $500 over receipts. Used to work for a small rural cable company. I was a technician shift manager. One day, we got several calls that porn was being broadcast on the local info channel. So I hop in a service truck and drive to the head end, the substation that the signals are pushed out from, and I see another tech's truck parked in the drive. I just assumed that the other tech had beaten me to the head end, so I go in to assist. As soon as I open the door, I see this tech with his pants around his ankles giving his meat the beating of a lifetime. He stops mid-stroke and just stares at me like a spotlighted deer holding his cock in his hand. Turns out, he had decided to stop in for a nice private jerk-off and had mistakenly put his porno tape in the wrong VCR, broadcasting it out to the entire service area. He just pulls up his pants, says I guess I'm fired, gets in his truck and takes it back to the office. I never saw him again. We all laughed about that one for a long time. Back in college, I used to buy the day shift manager for a surfboard store in La Jolla Shores, California. We would sell boards to brothers and make tons of money. Well, one day, I noticed that one of the surfboards seemed a little weirded out. Upon further inspection, I noticed that the top, where the string attached, was loose. I took it off and could see there was what looked like dried blood smeared on the inside of the board. I looked at the other boards, and they were all the same. I put in a hidden camera and caught one of our employees named Tristan putting the blood inside the boards. We called the police, and upon questioning, his main motive was to have sharks eat all the surfers so he could have all the tasty waves to himself. Cops didn't really see much wrong with that. They were territorial surfers back in the 80s probably. We also didn't think that was good enough reason to fire him, so he still works there. Although, we do have to search him for blood before every shift. Managed a gas station for about 3 years. Came in one night during night shift and announced, because I had forgotten to email a report to my boss earlier in the day. Walk into the office in the back, and my two employees, one a 50-year-old man who had a wife and kids, the other an 18-year-old girl who had been out of high school for 2 months, are just going the fuck at it on the desk. I flipped shit. Once when I worked at IHOP, I was closing and went out to the dumpster to throw out some garbage and found my totally hot manager blowing the head chef. We caught one of our bakers brewing pineapple beer in the upright prover. She was then getting raucously drunk and trying to fight the other bakers. It was pretty fucking good pineapple beer, but we fired her. When I worked nights at Sonic, there was a night when one of the cooks knew his parents were going to give him a drug test, and we all knew he wouldn't pass it. So one of the other cooks went to the bathroom and gave him his sample in a styrofoam cup. As he handed it to guy getting tested, he said, "Here, I should pass." They then decided to put it in the steamer to keep it warm and viable. He didn't pass. When I was managing a Jersey Mike's in college, I had an employee who I hired who was a culinary student. I had no idea why he was applying to a sandwich shop, but he seemed alright, even though I knew more about food than he did. Immediately we knew something was off when he used the terms wife, fiance and girlfriend interchangeably when describing his significant other who worked as a cashier at CVS across the street. Fast forward about a month, and we realize that he is constantly using the internet on our cash register, which was just a touchscreen computer, during the afternoons when it was slow. He wouldn't take care of any of the cleaning, just constantly surf the internet. Around the same time, some of my other employees, who went to the same college as me, started talking about how he was trying to get them to sleep with his wife/girlfriend/fiance, and eventually him as well. So, one afternoon I tell our franchise owner about this, because we think it's kind of funny, while we are talking about how to get him to pull his share of the weight cleaning. So we decide to check the internet history, and it's mostly been deleted except for a swinger site that he had been to that day. The dumbass had his username and password saved, so we got to see his whole profile, complete with pictures of him and his wife being penetrated by different dudes every which way is possible. We then decide to check the temporary internet files, and we see all kinds of porn. Mostly pictures of other swingers who are like fat and 55, but also everything else, including a lot of bestiality involving mostly horses and women. Needless to say, he didn't have a job after that. I work construction for a living, and while the boss and myself were working on one job, while 2 others from our crew were supposed to be laying hardwood at another location, well, my boss receives a call from the homie Arwana telling us immediately to head to her house. We get there, and these 2 assholes have brought in a go-kart and had the engine dismantled, and for the past 2 weeks no real work had been done. Homie Arwana asked if we were getting paid to work on go-karts or her house. They were promptly fired. I'm a kitchen manager. One time, last year, one of my shittier cooks came in with a water bottle filled with pop or something weird. I noticed him drinking it a lot while he was cooking. He started slowly becoming disoriented and extremely talkative and happy. So I pulled him into the office and said, "Joey, what's in your water bottle? Would you fire me if I said and vodka?" He asked. "Yes," I said with a look of disbelief and awe. "Yes, I would. You're free to leave immediately and you will no longer be employed with us." He laughed hysterically as he stumbled out of the building. I caught 2 of my employees on our security tapes literally bathing in my locked up stash of hamburgers once. My dad once caught one of his female employees sniffing other people's shoes. My first job out of college was an entry-level management position with a uniform/linen rental company. I worked first shift in the plant, where everything was sorted, laundered, etc. As part of the management training, I was required to spend some time with the third shift, which was a skeleton crew of maybe a dozen people. There was one semi-attractive girl in the bunch, a little rough around the edges, prettiest girl in the trailer park type. During a break I chatted with her, and she told me about her 2 little kids, about their dad being gone, how she worked overnights while her mom stayed with the kids so that she could be home with them during the day. She told me she would go home at the end of her shift and crawl into bed with her littlest one to sleep for a few hours before getting up to get the older one off to school. I thought, wow, she seems really nice and is working so hard to take care of her kids, barely sleeping each night so she can earn a living and still be there for them. What a great mom and a great person. And then on the next break I went out back and saw her bent over the picnic table where people went to smoke, getting banged like a porn star by the guy who ran the washers and dryers. I used to own a pizza place, and in our basement is where we stored everything. I send one of the kids downstairs to get boxes, and about 20 minutes go by and I'm thinking, where the hell is Jen? I send one of the guys who works for me downstairs to go check what's going on. Mind you, it's a Friday night and we are jam-packed. 10 minutes goes by and I'm thinking, alright, enough is enough. I go downstairs myself. I see the girl who I originally sent downstairs blowing the guy who works for me who I just sent down, and also getting railed out by some other guy who I didn't even know. We lost 2 employees that night. Worked at a very large software company when I came out of university. My team had considerable turnover and were in need of manager in the quality assurance department. Mr. X is hired. Resume is impeccable, well dressed, yada yada yada. 3 weeks into his employment he comes to me and asks for $5 for lunch, claiming that he'd forgot his wallet. Turns out that he asked 90% of the people on our floor for $5 and collected about $360 in 2 hours. At the same time, he was scoping out all the spots that people kept change in their desks. That night, he returned, raided all the desks for change, it was estimated to be over $2,000, and stole 22 high-end development laptops. Never saw him again. Fake name, fake SSN, fake resume, etc. I manage a home health company. I discovered that one of my caregivers stole an entire morphine drip bag from a dying client of ours. She had 10,000 units of morphine in her system when she was drug tested, and she sold the rest on the street.